What's going on YouTube? Today's video, I'm going to show you guys how I'm putting aftermarket lighting on my 2002 400EX. Be sure to stay tuned. Alright guys, first thing we're going to do is go over some of the tools that we're going to need. Okay, you're going to need a multimeter. This way we can test for voltage. We can figure out what wire is what on the quad. You're going to need some form of crimping tool. Depending on what type of connectors you're going to be using. I'll show you guys which ones I used and how they go together. Next thing you guys are going to need, a set of wire strippers. I keep a pair of scissors around when I do this. Very small needle nose pliers. Keep those around. Razor blade right here. And a couple picks, just in case you need to take the connectors back apart. Tape measure. And I like to keep a ruler on the bench. This way, if I need to measure out the length of a piece of wire, I know exactly what I'm going to need, and I have it right here at my fingertips. Consumables we're going to be using is all different various sizes and colors of shrink wrap, heat shrink, whatever you want to call it. These are some, I purchased these at Harbor Freight. They work just fine. These ones I got off eBay. There's different sizes and colors in here. Other consumables we're going to be using is butt connectors, but not just any butt connector. I got these off of eBay. Okay, these are actually really good. They're heat shrink tube, and also in the center here they have a part of solder, so a little piece of solder. Whenever you run the heat gun over this, these little blue areas here kind of seals the ends, and then the solder melts and keeps the connection together. It actually comes out really really tight. You're going to want a weatherproof connection if you're going to be doing any type of wiring on your ATV. Next thing, we're going to need some wire. Different colors, sizes. I'm going to be running with 18 gauge on this. I only have yellow in 18 gauge, but that's okay. I have different color heat shrink. I'll show you guys how I go about that. Another item I got from eBay is this. These are waterproof automotive connectors. It's like a 740 piece kit. I'll show you guys all the individual pieces when we get to putting something together, and I'll show you guys how they go together. You will also need a heat gun. Okay guys, now over here at the quad, I'm going to show you what we're going to use the multimeter for, so we can figure out which wire is exactly which, and draw out a diagram, and we'll lay it all out. This way we're a little better organized, so we know exactly what we're doing. So first thing you want to do is you're going to want to power your quad up. Turn the key on. Now, with your multimeter, let me pull this out here. With your multimeter, you're going to want to turn it on and set it to volts. Quad with the battery that's on here, any quad should be 12 volts. So we're going to set it over to the volts area up to 20 volts. Alright, so I'll put this somewhere you guys can see this. Alright, so first things first, let's turn on the lights. Okay, they're not on here, but we're just going to check for power right now. So you're going to turn the switch on. Okay, when you turn it on, you have either low beam or high beam on this quad. So we'll go with low beam first. This is the connector on the 400EX. There's 3 wires. It comes out from this switch if you follow it down your handlebars and through the steering stem. We have a green in the middle, a blue on the outside, and a white on the other side. Your green is going to be your ground, okay? So right now, if we're in, let's see here. If we are in, if I can get the damn pin to sit there. Right now we're in low beam. So we're going to be looking for which one of these pins has power while the low beam is set up. So right there, 12.46. Okay, that's grounded out into the white wire. So the white wire is our low beam setting. So if I turn the power to the headlights off and touch the same wires, you'll see we get no power. That's off. Let's go back on, double check. Yes, the white wire is our low beam. So now let's switch to high beam. The white wire again now should have no power to it, which it does not. Now we'll go over to the blue wire. Now the blue wire has 12.5 volts, okay? So knowing that the green is our ground, the white wire is our low beam, and the blue wire is our high beam, we can go ahead and map out a diagram and get to wiring. So back over to the bench. All right, guys, back over at the bench now that we know what's what. I drew up a little diagram here, so if you guys want to pause it and read it, you can. The wires coming out of the quad, like we found out, the blue is the high beam, green is the ground, white is the low. So we'll stay on this half of the page for now. On the headlights that I chose, which are these here, it has a red halo. That's our low beam, and then the center would be the high beam. The light bar that I have has two different settings as well. This is the top part, the high beam, and the bottom is for the low beam. So the wires that come out of the light bar and the headlights both share the same colors, black, red, and yellow. Black being the ground, red being for high beam, yellow being for low beam. So the black wire from the headlight and the light bar will go to the green from the quad, which is our ground. The yellow is going to go to the yellow for the low beam, and the red is going to go to the blue from the quad for our high beam. I'll show you guys how I wired that up, and I'll also show you right now how to figure out what wires are what with whatever headlight you chose. All right, so this is how I tested to find out what wires what on the lights that I bought. Right now I just have this set up to a battery with some jumper wires, so I could test out what circuit is what on the lights that I chose. The way that it's wired up on the quad, I set these connectors up the same way with the ground in the middle. All right, so, and obviously it would correspond with the other wires as well. So this is how I found out what wire is what on the lights that I bought. With the jumper wires, you could just there's the high beam for that light there. So we know that that's our red wire that comes out of this light bar. Now for the low beam, that's our low beam on this. And the same thing I did with the headlights that I chose. Show you guys here. Ground's in the center. This one is, that's our high beam. Okay, and then for the halo, that's our halo, guys, as you can see here. Now, what I had done, because I want to run both of these at the same time, I want them both to come on together. I'll show you guys how to put these connectors together in a second, but I made an additional connector. This is a jumper. It goes from the one on the quad, and it splits it into two. And the reason I did this was if I ever want to deduct one of these or remove one from the quad or switch one out, I don't have to rebuild anything other than if I get a new light, all I got to do is the connector on the end of it for itself. But also, if I disconnect one, I could just plug either the headlight one or the light bar into the plug that's now on the quad that matches these, the female section of these connectors. But with the splitter in there, this is how it will go. Both of these could be in at the same time. And I'll show you guys how it gives us the same outcome, but now with both. So I'll be going into the center. Now from my splitter that I made, there's our low beam. Got the halos and that. Now for the high beam, just the other side, which is our red wire from these lights. So that's pretty much all I did there. Now I'll show you guys how to assemble one of these connectors if you are to purchase the same style that I have here, which is a waterproof automotive connector. Here's the kit that I purchased from eBay. It comes with single wire, 2 wire, 3 wire, 4, 5, and 6 pin. It was like some crazy amount of pieces that came in. It was like 740 pieces or something like that. But for demonstration purposes, to show you how one of these goes together, we're going to be assembling one of these 3 wire pins. So what you'll need is the male section, the female section. These are the locking clips that go inside of them to lock these down when you assemble the clip. And these are the little boots that go over the wire, so it makes it a waterproof seal. So we'll assemble one side of these, and this way you guys can get an idea how they can go together. They can be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it's definitely doable if you have a little bit of patience. So for demonstration purposes, this is 18 gauge wire. You're going to want to get your strippers, wire strippers that is. Make sure if you're using 18 gauge wire like I am, you put it in the mark on the wire stripper that's for 18 gauge. Otherwise you will, if you use one that's too small, you'll end up clipping some of the wire strands that are inside the wire. If you use one that's too big, you're obviously not going to take the sheathing off of the wire. So when you use the right size, it comes right off. So I usually spin the ends of my wires. I don't know what you guys do. If you guys just stick them in there just without spinning them, let me know down in the comments. This is a pair of crimpers that came with this kit right here that I bought on eBay. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take one of the little rubber boots after you've stripped off the wire. You're going to twist and install it on to the end of the wire. I put it right where the sheathing is, right at the end there. So we'll assemble the male side for this. Now, if you look at these little clips, those prongs on the back, like the back part here, those go on and pinch down on that little waterproof boot. So I usually just start them by hand first because it could be a little tedious to get it with a tool, but usually stick them on like this just to get it started. And then I'll grab my needle nose pliers. That's why I got these little skinny pliers out here. Just pinch one side down at a time, then the other side. You don't want to send it all the way home. Just crimp it down just a little bit. A little bit will do you on this one here. Now the crimping tool that they gave you, the way I do this is, I usually use the middle one. If you're using smaller wire, you could use a smaller setting. There's 3 different settings on here. Crimp it down, ratchets right back open. So on the male side of the connector plug, we're going to take this piece here. This goes on to this just like so. If you guys can see how this looks. Just clips right in here. And what this does is when you stick the piece that you just crimped in there, there's little like tabs in there that lock down on this thing, which is like this section right here on the wire. It'll just stick in there. Take it, put it in the back, and it should slide if you get it the right direction, which I'm not able to at the moment. Sometimes, guys, these clips are not the best quality in the world. Some of them went together with me putting the clip on beforehand like I just did. Some I forced on after. It's just not the best quality. I will be upgrading to probably a Deutsch connector in the future. But when you put that in there, this part of the prong will be on the outside part of the casing. So if it was the other way around, like, see how that is? That would be upside down. So it goes in there like this. Get in there like that. And then you take your locking clip, if you can, or if I can, slide it down. And I usually just press it down on the bench. But that should give you a nice tight fit that's now locked in there. So just repeat that step for the female end. The female end gets the long prongs. So if it's easier to remember, the short prongs go for the shorter connector, the long prongs go for the long connector. Now that you guys have the connector assembled, I mean, this is just for demonstration purposes, just to show you guys how this goes together. I'll grab the multimeter, show you that we have a solid connection. Turn it over to continuity. That's the setting on your multimeter that has a little speaker symbol on it. If you guys can see right here where I have that set. So it should make a beeping sound when we have a solid connection, which we do. That's how the wires go together, guys. Very simple. So if you have to extend any wires on an ATV, the best way to go about it, in my opinion, is to use a butt connector, solder, and also heat shrink it. This way you don't want to have any weather elements or any water getting into your guys' connections. Here's another item, like I showed you guys earlier in the video. These are butt connectors that are, they're shrink tube, and they also have a piece of solder inside of them. You don't have to use a lighter or anything. A regular heat gun. I believe this is one of the lower Wagner heat guns that I got from Home Depot. It was like 15 or 20 bucks. But anyway, what you want to do is get your connection together. This is usually how I do mine. Just twist them together. Slide your tube on. Wrong size. Slide you guys' tube over, and I'll show you guys how quickly this thing actually melts the solder. It's pretty cool. You can see it's larger than the wire at the moment. You guys this thing will zoom in. It's a little larger than the wire right now. Take your heat gun. See the tube starting to shrink down. You see that blue gel actually goes around the wire and seals it as well. You guys can see the solder flowing in there. And that's it. Let it cool down. Obviously, don't go yanking on it yet. It's still hot. You can touch it, but it's a little sticky from being heated up. But as soon as that cools down, you guys have a nice solid connection. That is the proper way to waterproof a wire connection. If you have to lengthen wires or use butt connectors, when you're done doing that, if you want to take it another step further, which I usually always choose to, you can get yourself some shrink wrap. Same deal. Use the heat gun for this. Cut it to size. Get it ready to accept the wire. Just slide that in. Make sure, I usually put wherever the butt connector is in about the middle area of the shrink wrap, like this. So if you want to take it another step further, like this, which I recommend, that shrunk down on there. Now your guys' connection is completely sealed from the elements. It's a good tight connection. Alright guys, so we're back over here at the quad. I got the headlights and the light bar plugged in. It's not mounted. In the next video I'll be making some mounting brackets, and there's a couple other things that I want to get done on the quad. You guys will be seeing that soon, and maybe a riding video in the next week or so. But for testing purposes, just to show you guys everything works, I got the switch off right now, keys on, so we'll go ahead and turn this on with the low beams. You can see the red halos lit up along with the low beam of the light bar. Switch over to high beam. High beam comes on with both of them. So if you guys like this, be sure to give me a thumbs up, drop a comment. If you could, it'd be great if you could subscribe. I got other stuff coming out. Other projects I got going on right now is the Corvette. I can show you guys that. I bought it from somebody I knew. It was actually a car that was set on fire. Wasn't as bad as it looked, but I got enough parts there now to where I can start making videos and showing you guys what's going on with that. And also, like I mentioned in the last video, I got this little joke Chinese quad thing that somebody completely altered. I don't even know what they were going for or what their thought was, but yeah, give me a thumbs up, throw a comment down. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.